Clay County Sheriff's Office comes out with a post today saying that there was a school shooting threat investigation that has led to a 16-year-old's arrest. First of all, your reaction ahead of the first day of school for a lot of these Northeast Florida counties when you hear that news.
I hope that's not a precursor for the rest of the school year. To be honest, Chris, that this is no joke, and you can see by the way this was handled, it's not considered a joke by law enforcement or by the courts. And these are felony charges that are going to get levied against this perpetrator and anybody else who thinks this is a good way to disrupt school for some reason. It's a good way to disrupt your future.
Yeah, so it's something that the state attorney's office has been talking about in the days leading up to that first day of school. It's something we've reported on a lot within those first 2 weeks of the school year last year. I mean, what are law enforcement agencies doing to hopefully keep this from becoming a problem? But when it becomes a thing, what are those steps to investigate?
It has to be swift action for several reasons. When these school shootings have happened historically, and you look back, 2020 hindsight's always better, but you look back and you think, there were some red flags that law enforcement really should have acted on. Well, lesson learned, and now they are, and they're acting swiftly. And if you get caught up with the hoax, you're going to pay the price. But from a law enforcement standpoint, this takes the same amount of effort investigating a hoax as it does a real threat. And there's things in place where students can report this anonymously, that teachers and parents can do the same thing when when they're hearing something, or there's something going around rumor wise. Law enforcement jumps on those very, very quickly. Again, takes them very, very seriously, has to spend the assets to investigate them, whether they're real or not, in the case that they are real, because there's no time to waste. So
Yeah, so in this case, they mentioned that there was no evidence of having access to a firearm in this case, but that doesn't change the fact that he is now facing these felony charges. Is there a difference? Does it matter whether he actually had a gun or not?
I would assume that from the state attorney's office that if he did have a gun, and there's charges that can apply to this that are outside the making threats, that conspiracy, and as you get together and maybe plan this out with somebody, you could be facing additional charges with it if indeed you did have a gun. But all those are really kind of weighed on a case by case basis. So it's serious enough with just a threat, with just thinking this is some kind of joke, and watch this, I'm about to mess up the first day of school. No, no, it's not going to go that way, and it's not going to be happy endings for that person.
Yeah, and
Again,
even if this threat is made toward a specific person, if they're bringing up a school, that's going to prompt this massive reaction, right?
yeah, oh yeah, without a doubt, and it has to, because we're in a different world now. Where honestly we're in a different technological world than we were back in the Columbine day. That these threats are done differently. And sometimes they're just rumors. Sometimes they're on social media. Sometimes you just never know how they're going to come in or how they're going to get talked about. So I don't. You can't not investigate these, and it's the little boy who cried wolf, that if you don't do something, you think, it's just another one of those hoax, and parents and teachers and students hear this, and it gets watered down sometimes when like, it's another hoax, and until it's not. And law enforcement can't risk the inactivity by not doing something on it, because maybe it's just another hoax. It's unfortunate. It honestly, it takes resources away from other things that are truly valid, that truly need investigating, and manpower put towards. They don't get to have that because they're investigating what turns out to be a hoax, or somebody talking junk on the internet, and that's just not good.
Yeah, and we mentioned that a lot of the times it's just, kids trying to do whatever kids are doing. That doesn't change the fact that parents, students, teachers should be reporting these things once they hear them, right?
Oh, without a doubt. And again, there are so many things that are done there. There's portals and websites for reporting this anonymously for really anybody, but especially students and teachers and parents as they hear about these things. And I would encourage the students, if when you sit back and you look at videos of the tragedies that have unfolded year after year after year, and the lives that are lost, and you shudder to think maybe somebody knew, maybe somebody had heard something or whatever and didn't pick up the phone and didn't let somebody know. You never know, and once you know, it's too late. So putting that anonymous tip out there, let law enforcement do their thing, and decide whether it's real or not. But when the people that have the knowledge sit on it, bad things happen.
Yeah, and then obviously heading into this first day of school, what would your message to parents be when they hear about these types of things in the past and even today?
Yeah, take them seriously. When you hear about these things, first of all, from a 30-year law enforcement veteran, know that every effort gets put to determining whether they're real or fake and holding somebody responsible for it. But when we talk about fake ones, don't disregard every one of the messages because you think it's another fake. As a parent, have a conversation with your kids about this. Have a conversation with your kids about if one of these happens at your school, and honestly, if one of your children hears something, have a conversation about how to report it, and it's the right thing to do. But having a plan as a family when one of these particular things happen, and be it a hoax or be it a threat, or something that actually, God forbid, actually happens at one of the schools in the North Florida, South Georgia area, have a plan for what you're going to do with your kids, with your spouse, with just everybody that's involved, and having some kind of plan of expectation between mom and dad, and between mom and kids and dad and kids, about what we would do. It's a little bit different world now with cell phones not being in the students' hands, and we're going to see how that kind of plays out. But having some plan is better than having no plan. And again, this is the kind of thing, when these news stories break like this is the time to have that conversation. It's a good lead in for it. It's like, hey, did you see that news story? And let's talk about it. So, it's unfortunate that we live in this world, but we do.
Yeah, it's a conversation to have with kids that may see these things, but it's also a conversation to have with those that may be considering this type of thing. Obviously, these things have been happening more and more, it seems, to anyone considering doing this. How serious are the consequences?
Your freedom. You will again, the law enforcement and the courts, the state attorney's office is taking these so seriously, and in an effort to put a stop to them, has to prosecute these cases really to the fullest extent. So you may end up, depending on your age and the circumstance, you may end up being charged as an adult, going to big person jail, or having serious consequences that it doesn't erase. It's not an etch a sketch. You can't just flip it over and start over. It's there, and it's permanent, and it's going to live with you for years to come. So don't, just be smart.
And these charges that are associated with these cases, it doesn't really matter whether you intended to actually carry it out, correct?
Correct. And that's the thing. Leave the jokes and the whatever that may come around these things. Leave that out of the equation. It's not funny. It's not looked anybody by funny. So it's serious. And even talking about it, the planning of it, if you're just, hey, listen, I was just sporting between me and my buddies about this, find something else to joke about.